sleeping and morning, or we're in different continents and different parts of the world. And actually, I'm not even sure if Dolan's actually on the planet Earth, but wish you
Yeah,
were here. Let's
barely.
start, buddy. Well, Matt, I'll have the Monkey Music Show. This is Dolan on, is from Venom Inc. and from a billion other thing, and an actor. Not much
Yes.
lately. Have you done anything lately for acting?
Oh, well, funnily enough, I actually just kind of acting, but I did this project called Sabatonero, which I did for frontline workers in Italy. When I began it, it was, over a year ago now. Italy was very hit very hard. And so I did a song with some friends, Francesco Conte, Riccardo Spilli, and Filippo Matrigiani in Italy. They asked me, "Oh, do you fancy just having some fun?" And I put some bass on "Hole in the Sky" by Black Sabbath. But it was such fun. It turned out so well.
What a bottom end that has too.
Yeah, I mean,
it's got to feel good, huh?
Yeah, it was wonderful. And I enjoyed it so much. I thought, yeah, we should do another one. And then I thought, hang on a second. What if we did a whole bunch of them? And then we could even maybe get guests on to come and play or sing or whatever. And then why don't we see if we can then make it and raise some money for frontline workers in Italy? Because at that stage, England hadn't really been hit. America, it hadn't got there yet. So Europe was not really being hit by the pandemic, but Italy was really on its knees. Of course, now the project's out and it's released and everything, but a year later, everybody's been under the hammer, so it's a bit strange. But one of the artists who was on there was a singer from an Italian band called Necrodeath, who are like a thrash death band, very well known in northern Italy, and they've been around forever. And the singer, he actually is a director, and he does porno videos as well as he won't mind me saying that. He's got this porno thing, and he does video editing and everything. And they're doing their new album, and he sent me a thing. Would you mind doing a bit of acting for me? And I said, okay. I don't know. But he said, no, it's not the porno stuff. He said, we've done a new album and it's from A Clockwork Orange. So he said, it's the script from Clockwork Orange. I'd like to get you because the album's theme. So I said, yeah. So he sent me through loads of clips and script from the movie. So I just kind of finished that for them. But what was weird, fun, of course, because it's A Clockwork Orange. But what was interesting and challenging was it wasn't all the main character, Malcolm McDowell. There were some other characters too. But they wanted me to do them like as the movie script, so as I was the character in the movie, which meant that I had to kind of change my voice for different things and stuff. So it was a bit of a challenge, but I just finished that, sent it back to them, and they love it. So that was my latest acting entrepreneurial thing. But it was great fun to do. So
you have energy to do it. You have your face is very emotive. Like you can do silly face. Like just the way you look in your eyes, even like you can, you know what I'm saying? Or you can be the serious guy, when you're like in the Russell Crowe thing, like you can be very like stern, like this guy's going to just break me in half.
Yeah.
You can do a lot of that with your face, which is a really nice talent to have, which, you know what I'm saying? It carries over a lot.
Yeah, I think it's advantageous. One thing I learned very early on was, not so much in the theater, because when you perform in the theater, you have to use slightly bigger movements and your head turning and so your whole body performance is part of it, not just the words and stuff, but you have to be very motion oriented for the theater, because you're translating emotions a lot of time to an audience who maybe 1,000 people in an audience, and they're not all sitting right in front of you. They're spaced out, so you have to take your emotions that your whole body can translate that to an audience who are watching. But when you get to cinema or TV, it all comes through the eyes. And everybody that I admired when I spoke to said, you have to be able to look at someone straight and convey the emotion. So you either can be threatening or gentle or concerned or thoughtful, or but it all has to come through very minimum movements, because that's what happens in real life. If you're standing in your kitchen and your wife comes in and goes, "Oh my God, you can't believe what happened to Derek," before you even open your mouth, your eyes are going to show your emotional response.
Right.
And if she comes in and goes, "Oh fuck, I'm so sorry about the car," again, your eyes are going to be the first thing that she notices in your response. So when you take that into cinema and into TV, you learn to try and use your face a lot more, which is in theater, you have to use your face and your body and your voice projection. But in cinema, you kind of, you narrow it down, and then it becomes natural, you know, because the more you are when you're performing, the easier it is. You know, a lot of actors like Anthony Hopkins and stuff, you know, they would say that I'm just me. So if you're just you, when someone asks you a question, you have to, it's about listening, really. You have to respond to it. You've read a script, so they're going to come in and say, would you like some more coffee? Would you like some toast? No, thanks. It's okay. I don't have enough time. Now, if that was in just tomorrow morning when your
Who doesn't have time for toast? What kind of life are you leading, Tony?
Well, yes, exactly. Yeah.
Oh.
But when your wife or your kids come in and go, Dad, you want some toast, or would you like some more coffee? You know, you just go, yeah, sure. The trick is that when it's scripted and you know that's what's going to happen, you have to almost forget it's going to happen so it feels more natural. So I think that's the trick you have to do, because you can't prepare. You already know what this person's going to say, and you already know what your response is, and we don't in real life.
Have you done like classes?
Yep.
Prior, have you?
Well, I did do over you know, some vocal classes and some acting classes. Yeah, I was very fortunate very early on that a very good director for the Royal Shakespeare Company, who then went on to Italian opera, he kind of I did some favors for him to help out, and he very kindly got me to do lots of Shakespeare workshops and had me performing all kinds of things with real actors, I called them at the time, because I hadn't kind of learned the skill. And he was brilliant. He was brilliant, and I learned so much. And what was really funny, because I didn't know what I was doing, I would just learn the Shakespearean script. But then if I had questions, go, I don't understand. What does that mean? I mean, what's he trying to convey? He would just say, well, it means this because what he's feeling is this. So when I said the words, to me, I was just trying to make them as real as possible. And all of the real actors who were coming in that he was kind of auditioning would then think, they all thought I was a ringer. I was his ringer. So I was his, like, I can play any part man. And so I was testing how good they were. And he would, and when I remember having a coffee with him one day, and I said, Tim Supple was his name. And I said, Tim, these people think I'm your ringer. I'm not a real actor. He went, don't tell them you've never done it before. Just keep doing it. He said, if that's what they think, then you're doing it wrong. And yeah, so it kind of felt natural. It's always felt kind of natural.
It is. I mean, to add to that, I mean, step over you, there's something about, like, sometimes you can have all that knowledge that you have and still not deliver it. You can still be a robot. Or you can have no knowledge and just come across and just be you. I mean, there's some actors that do certain parts in Hollywood for certain movies, like rock movies or whatever, or play like they do that one part because it's really them. It's not really acting. There's one or two people. I'm not going to degrade who she is doing a movie part, kind of playing a trashy character. In real life, it wasn't really, but they didn't do anything else since then that you really kind of bought. And sometimes it's a prop. Sometimes actors become a new person with a prop. Now you, no hair, no facial hair, nothing. So you are a blank canvas. You also wear well. Most guys cannot have a bald hair, no hair. So I mean, enjoy the fact you've got the perfect shape.
Well, yeah.
But on a serious note, like if you're talking, like really just talking work, you literally you're not leaning on, you know, Mr. Mustache for this detective work. You know what I'm saying? Whatever.
No, exactly.
You are literally relying on the same area.
Yeah.
For everything. There's no nothing. You can't be like, I'm surprised your hair's a little messed up. No, it's all here. That's it.
Well, there's an interesting thing you said about that. One note I'd like to point out is from your example is Joe Pesci. Joe Pesci was serving in a restaurant. I don't know if he was a maitre d', but certainly he was serving in a restaurant when Scorsese was having a meeting with De Niro to cast for the brother in Raging Bull, Marciano's brother in Raging Bull, and they were having their meal. I guess they'd seen a lot of actors and they couldn't quite find the right guy. Pesci was serving at their table. And after 2 or 3 trips to the table, they both looked at each other and went, that's the guy. And Pesci had never acted before. And they went, have you ever acted before? He went like, no. And they were like, do you want to be in a movie? And Pesci goes and plays his brother superbly because he was just Joe Pesci. And so that underlines what you said, but very interesting. I got asked to audition. This was many, many years ago. for a TV show here. One of the actors who'd been in the TV show, they were doing a new movie, and they wanted and I got an audition for it. My agent sent me up because she said, "Oh, they want a musician, and you're a rock musician, you play all that." And I was like, "Yeah." And then when I looked at the piece, the description was LA rock band, you know, 80s, trashy. And I was thinking, fucking, it's like Motley Crue. And I was looking at myself in the mirror like this, going, right, there's no fucking way I could
Get a
look like
wig.
a deal. So I was like, what do I do? Well, I was working in theatre at the time, and my partner was doing wig and makeup. So I said, "Do you have any wigs?" "Yeah, I got a couple of wigs." I went and I looked, she had a long black wig. So I said, "Right, can I borrow that?" So I put this long black wig, made it look, I put a headband on, chewed some gum, put my rock clothes on, and I went to the audition. And they talked to me, and they were really cool. "Hi, I'm Tony." "Oh, wow. Oh, you look different." I was like, "Oh, yeah, well, you know, I just let my hair go and stuff." And then we do the audition. They say, "Can you play an instrument?" I was like, "Yeah, I play guitar, bass." And they went, "Oh, we've got a bass. Do you want to play a bit?" You know? And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So I played a couple of licks, and they went, "Oh, brilliant. Yeah, this is great." And then it was kind of closing the end of the audition, and I stood up and I said, "Man, it's really hot in here, isn't it?" And they were like, "Yeah, it's been hot." I said, "You must be really dying in here, being in here all day." They went, "Yeah." I went, "Do you mind if I take my and they just looked at me and went, "Oh, sure." I guess they thought I meant bandana. And so I grabbed my wig and pulled it off and looked like this. And they were like, "Holy shit, what happened there? Where's your hair gone?" And I said, "It was a wig." But the
You're like,
reason I
it's
did,
acting.
yeah, but the reason I did that, Sean, and I swear to God, was that I'd heard from actors that sometimes they can't visualize. They have an idea of what you should look like. And if I'd walked in with a bald head, they would have went, "No," without even getting me to read, because they go, "But we're looking for a long-haired rocker."
Mhm.
So I went in with the wig on to go, "Yeah, but you know, if you just imagine for a moment, when, like you said, you have a blank canvas, I could have a huge mustache if you glue one on. I could have hair if you put a wig on. You know, so it was trying to underline that point that if I'd walked in my natural state, you would have went no. But when I walked in and you thought I looked a certain way, they were yes. You know, and so it kind of underlines.
That's
Sometimes
really
they
good
don't.
because it's hard because people will believe. Also, I mean, have you ever seen people that don't have hair? Like example, like Tom Cruise, when also he had
What?
long hair in the movie. It felt like he
Yeah,
didn't really have long hair because when you have long hair, you have a different feeling of having hair. You're not used to it. So
absolutely.
when some of these actors have long hair in movies, and you can tell, you're like they're not used to having.
Yeah.
It throws off
Yeah.
their performance because they're not. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think again, it works on the natural thing. You know, because I had had long hair when I
Right.
was a young guy in a metal band. Then for me, putting the wig on, I just went back to, I knew what how I would respond. But I think when someone doesn't, they haven't experienced
Ever.
that, of
Right.
course, you now got to try and pretend that that's real, and that's when you can notice that that looks a bit uncomfortable or not legitimate, really.
Subconscious, like, does it fall natural? Does this because you don't realize, not used to who it is. You haven't had regular days with it, so you've had both ends of it, and
Yeah, exactly. And I know lots of people who, when I shaved my head in the late '80s, that was, I mean, we had skinheads when I was into punk and stuff in the '70s. But when, by the late '80s, when I shaved my head, that wasn't a thing. People weren't shaving their heads, and then into the '90s, everybody started shaving their head. But one thing I noticed was the 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 way they felt and the way they kind of became once they'd shaved all their hair off. It was like they resaw themselves as a different kind of character. So it's the reverse of that. If you have always had short hair or shaved head and then you put long hair on, then you're going to be a different character. And it's about being self-aware. And if you're not self-aware, if it just feels much more natural, then when you see that on screen, it's much easier. And there's two types of acting. You have the British School of Acting, which is you learn your lines, you make them feel as real as you can, and you portray the part. Or there's an American ethos, like out of New York, where it's method acting. Christian Bale, Dustin Hoffman, they're method actors. So for them, they're going to play someone who's been tortured and kept in Guantanamo Bay. So they go away to Guantanamo Bay and get someone to waterboard them and then torture them a little bit so that when they're doing it, it feels like real, you know. But again, you get great directors who can tap into an actor's emotion. Like one of my favorite stories is from The Exorcist, and when Father Karras is he's listening to the tapes in reverse, trying to figure out the language of when she's speaking in tongues, and then he realizes, oh, if he plays them backwards, he hears them in English, and while you're listening to this, it's kind of spooky, and then the phone rings, and he was supposed to jump, and they shot a couple of times, and obviously William Friedkin directing didn't think that he was quite getting the reaction he wanted, so he really wanted him to shit himself, and then the audience would shit themselves. So he fucking fired like a 45 when the telephone ring is on the soundtrack because they kept it silent because he shot a 45 pistol by his ear. So when you say Karras go fuck, he's like, holy shit. But that's the reaction he went, right, that's a take, let's move on to the next. And I love things like that, you know, because it's like, if you can't quite give me it, I'll find a way to get it. And that's a brilliant director. And then when you see that emotion, you know it's real. And you feel it.
That's crazy. Like, wardrobe, we're going to change his pants. He soiled himself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you know, I remember the mother in that as well. There's a point where Reagan hits her across the face and she flies across the room and hits a cabinet and ends up on the floor. And the actress was there and they were describing the whole thing. And then they put a harness on it and a trick wire. So they said, well, she'll hit you, we'll pull you across and you'll end up there. And she was okay. And so they said, so they went through it. They did the rehearsals, like, so she'll slap you and then we'll put you across. And there was like a key point she was waiting for, which would be the trigger that she knew she was going to get pulled across the room. And he totally went out of sequence for it. So as soon as Reagan hit her, they just fucking let the machine go and it ripped her across the room. So her reaction is all real, you know, but that's the take. And then, you know, so you don't get a performance, you get the real reactions. And I love that kind of stuff. I love that kind of stuff.
My God, it's like being punked. The whole set must have been terrifying to move.
Yeah. You didn't know what was going to get, you know, don't know what was going to go down. But it kind of, it's the same thing, I think, with Tom Cruise, you know, who likes to do his own stunts as much as he can. And he will go that extra mile to, you know, skydive or do some whatever it is, you know, he wants to go and try that because when you're doing it and you get a bit scared or you look like you know what you're doing, that translates on the screen as well, you know. And sometimes it helps for the movie that if you can do a close-up where it's actually you doing it, it gives them more film quality, more film footage. It feels more real as well. Whereas, you know, we've all seen those movies where, you know, something's going to kick off and the stunt guy runs down the street and you know you can see he's wearing a wig. It doesn't kind of look like the other guy.
Tom Cruise goes a little too far. I mean, like, dude, I would be like, he's like on airplanes and buildings. I'm like, all right, you know what? You could like buy like islands at this point. Maybe you could just pull back just a little bit. What's he like?
Yeah.
Late 50s, 60s. I'm like, dude, you're back. Just relax a little bit.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, it's great for him as a performer, but I think as a film company, the fucking insurance is through the roof. They must be biting their nails every time he does a movie.
Isn't he his own company now? I think he actually had become his own company because he's just. Right. It's like being a king or in Viking lands, and you have a battle. Like kings, you know, wouldn't really fight; they sit back. But the Viking leaders would go out there, and they're probably usually a better fighter, and they are a better leader. That's why they're leaders because it's an earned thing, not just a position. But you go down, you are the main link of everything else.
Yeah, that's it.
That's the other problem with him being in charge. He is the movie company.
Yeah.
So now you have one person falling. Exponentially.
Well, I think that's probably that kind of bungee jump ethos, isn't it? It's those people who are thrill seekers. So he knows that it's all on him. So maybe he gets some kind of extra thrill, you know. So
how high can you go? What more can you do if you've conquered the movie industry? How far? Like, to me, some poor guy just died doing some jump, and I'm thinking there's a certain point I appreciate what things do, but at one point the desire to be the best, to do something death defying, or to like be so risking where you're like climbing a mountain that is like just nothing to grab onto. Just the
Yeah.
challenge that you climb to the top of the mountain. I'm like, there's a bunch of things I'd rather do than just say just did that.
Well,
You
yeah.
know what I mean?
You, me, and probably a few million other people will probably go,
Right?
I got a much better idea. Why don't I watch someone else do it who knows what they're doing?
I can't even do that. I get anxiety. I'm like, I can't watch. Even like the Himalayas are like, they spend their whole lives there. Doctor, they do everything they do, right? And there's like bad air and there are different
Yeah.
layers. Like, I get it's climbing, mountain climbing, or whatever. Go for hiking. I love it. But you're like doing something that these guys go with no packs, whatever, naturally live there. Fine.
Yeah.
You're,
Yeah.
you're a doctor. You're supporting your family. This guy just died going up the mountain. Himalayas. That was his dream. Dream of
But I
dying in
do,
snow. I didn't want to die in my driveway having a heart attack shuffling. I don't want to be dying on a mountain alone.
yeah. But I do think sometimes it kind of chomps on you. It bites on you. I mean, I worked in theatre, so putting a harness on and climbing up frames and hanging from one rope line and abseiling and stuff. None of that kind of ever bothered me with heights, and I'd run across rigs and stuff and not kind of worry about it, and it kind of. I think that's a danger where initially it's a thrill and then it becomes kind of normalized, and you have to be careful with that. You always have to respect those kind of activities, But even when we shot Master and Commander, we did sword training and musket training and cannon training and lots of rig climbing and stuff. And in inappropriate shoes and a traditional like you would. And you start off going, oh, fucking, this could go really wrong really quick. But the more you do it, the more it kind of exhilarates you and the more you kind of enjoy it and then think, oh, can I do that bit too? And can I do this bit too?
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't say like live on the couch. There's gonna be dangerous things you're gonna do, but there's a certain point where if you're looking, I'm saying like that guy as an example, he was like a doctor and he had all these things to do. And it's such a high risk thing for one thing when you have to choose so many other things in your life. We're never going to achieve everything you want. It's like that one chip in your head that feels like everything is worth it to go out in the middle of nowhere, to just climb on the top of something. That nowadays you can 15 pictures on Instagram in 2 seconds, and you can still enjoy nature doing other things.
Yeah,
so the risk factor of, or having a family being that risky also as you get older, and your health not being safe. Like I say, a young man and a young woman doing that when you're healthy and young, you don't have like other people depending on you, makes more sense.
Yeah.
Once you have dependence, you gotta kind of pull it back a little bit.
Yeah, you got to. There's other concept, like you say, age, fitness, your family and your dependents, your offspring, but your whole mindset is whatever. I mean, I think as you age, you get a bit more confident in who you are. You get a bit more relaxed. You know what you like, what you don't like, and then you can make those decisions. But I guess when you're young, it's about just
make more mistakes though too. If you're older, you're worrying about that. You're like in the back of your head, you're like, can I make that jump? Am I going to push myself through? You're doubting. I've got kids like, all right, at some point, are you still starting to doubt when you're young? You're fearless. You're like, fuck, I got nothing to do. I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
So is there self-doubt in there too as you get older?
I think there's more confidence. I can do that. Yes, I can't do that. And so you're much more aware. Where you're young, you go, fuck it, I'll give it a go. I'll give it a go. What's the worst that could happen? I don't make it.
Right.
Yeah, that's the worst that could happen. But when you get older, you go, no, that's too dangerous, but that I could do. So you kind of, you become more aware of your possible, what's possible to do. I think you set the bar when you're young and you're trying and you're expanding your horizon. You should set your bar and try and hit that bar. It doesn't mean to say you can you reach for the stars and you hit the moon. It's good that you hit the moon. That's succeeding. So, but if you set the bar to the moon and then you make it, so don't set it so far that it's impossible for you to attain. Keep your limits within reach and go for them. It's how like an athlete works. They want to get to 9 seconds on a 100-meter sprint. So that's what they're training for. And if they get 9.2, then that's good. So but they're aiming for 9. So at some point in their career, hopefully they'll hit that, even if it's just once. But they're aiming for that. So but if they go like, I'd like to do it in 5 minutes because it's impossible, they're never going to get there. So they're always constantly going to be let down. And if you don't do it, if you never make it, you're going to stop beating yourself up. You're going to become disillusioned. You're going to give up at some point because you set what seems like an impossible task. But I think it's the same thing. And I think once you age, you know what is possible for yourself, and you're quite comfortable with that. So if they go, we'd like you to, jump out of this airplane, you go, yeah, absolutely. And you jump out of the airplane with a parachute. If they say, right, we'd like you to get out of the airplane, climb all the way along to the pilot's window and let yourself in, you go, no, I'm not doing that, because I don't trust myself enough. And I know that I might not be able to do that. It's not about challenging. It's like just knowing where you have your limit, and you're comfortable with that when you're older. You're comfortable with that. And that's good. That's good. It means you know who you are, you know what your possibilities are, you know what your challenges are, and you know how you can overcome those. And when you're young, it's about finding what they are. So you push yourself to discover, what are my limits? What are my limits? Not the limits, my own limits. And sometimes I think, particularly with social media and when I've worked with younger people, they go, but I can't, I'll never be able to do that. I said, never say you'll never be able to do that. If you want to try and do it, let's work so that you can do that. But if you don't make it sound like you failed. Who have you failed? You're only challenging yourself. Someone's opinion about you or what you've done is just their opinion. You've got opinions too about other people, but the challenge is always just your challenge. So, when someone once said to me, how do you feel like, because you didn't succeed in movies? And I was like, how did I not succeed in movies? And they went, well, because you don't do them anymore. I went, but that was a choice of mine. And they said, yeah, but, I mean, you're not like Tom Cruise or someone. I said, but did I want to be Tom Cruise? Did I want to be a millionaire? If I wanted to be a millionaire, would I be a millionaire? But I had to answer that question myself and go, if I wanted to be a millionaire, I would have sacrificed everything on the planet to be a millionaire, because that's what millionaires do as entrepreneurs. I said, so I had to actually go, I don't actually really want to be a million. I'd like $1 million, but I don't want to be a millionaire enough to sacrifice everything else to do that. I've got other things I want to do. So
what a weird question.
Yeah, very strange.
You're like, how's it feel to be a failed journalist who can't think of anything original when you have an opportunity of a creative force in front of you?
Well, exactly. And I'm like, hang on. So if my bar that I set was, I'd like to act, and I got a job acting, then I've succeeded. If my next step was, I'd like to be on TV, and I was on TV acting, then I succeeded. If I then decided I'd like to make a movie, and I was in a movie acting, then I succeeded. I said, so your question is all about success, fame, and money, predominantly money. I said, but maybe that's not the challenge I set myself, to go, right, you need to be Jim Carrey earning $20 million a movie. I didn't set that. That wasn't part of my remit. So therefore, if he did that and he made that, that's his success. But my success was not that. My success was something else. And so you can opinionate on people, and you hear people opinionating on, what you should have done, how you could have done it, where you should have gone, how you should have made it. But it's irrelevant, because it's only you who decides what you do and how you do it. And like you just said, if they go, Sean, we want you to climb this rock and hang underneath it, and it's risky, you could fall, but just if you and you go, I'm not going to do that, because if I fall and I die, what about my kids and my family and my age? And I don't feel confident. So you say no. So that's you making that decision, not someone else making it.
You want to live on the edge with me, Dolan? You and I will sit down one night on the couch and we'll watch Fear Factor, and I'll be like, I'll do that one. I won't do that one. I'll do that one.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I do at 50 years old. I'm like, I would do that. I'm like, no, I wouldn't do that. You could dump the rats on me. Knock that car in the rain, but I'll hit the bugs on me.
Exactly. Let's do it. Yeah.
That's how I meet her in my life at this point in my life. You know what I mean? I like
perfect. That's perfect.
Everything doesn't scare to me.
Yeah. Look, nobody says that hot chocolate isn't nice to drink. Nobody says tea isn't nice and refreshing. But if they offer you that and you want coffee, that's okay too. And some people say coffee's bad for you, but if you want a cup of coffee, that's cool. It's choice, isn't it? And you make the choice based on what you like and what you want to do. And so that's the analogy for life, isn't it? It's not based on someone going, why are you drinking coffee? Tea's much better. It's like, for you, it's much better. For me, I like coffee. You know, it's like, but that's cool. You can still drink tea because they make it, and I'll still drink
Your
coffee.
only goal is to do what you do inside of you. You get up every day, you get dressed, you be kind, you put the energy towards what you want to do. Of course, personal success matters on a lot of levels, and it feels good because it motivates us and causes independence.
Of course.
But the level of what you feel you're in success is so hard. But then with the self-imposed, you need to have success. There's so many. You've done like a handful of well-known movies that people would probably refer to. That on the success chart we're talking about, that have probably been more quality than say some of these other people that have been say lifetime actors, and that's their dream to be a star. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I hate to say a rock star or a movie star. I hate when people are like a hairstylist. They're like, you're a rock star. No one's you know what rock star was? 1970s, Led Zeppelin, the Red Snapper Fish, Riot House, you're throwing TVs out the window. That's it. Done.
Yeah.
Then maybe the 80s a little bit of a photocopy. We're done. We're not doing rock stars anymore.
Yeah.
You're a musician, you're an actor, you're a kind of person. That's it. You get up every day, you be you whatever your creative forces are doing in you that day. And that's all you can ask.
Well, you know, exactly. It's like if you think of 70s and Zeppelin, like you just mentioned, you know, the whole rock star thing, they had an airplane with Led Zeppelin on it. Was like, wow, they've got their own airplane. Yes,
it's never been done before. It was naughty because it was never done before either. It was also the first time. Now it's been done.
Well, exactly. But the thing is, you know, now you say Iron Maiden, and they've got a plane called Iron Maiden, and they go around, and people go, well, that isn't that just like, you know, trying to be rock stars like Led Zeppelin? It's like, no, Bruce Dickinson is a pilot. He's the one who flies the plane.
How insane is that he flies the plane? He gets done, he sings for like 100,000 people, gets done, puts his shirt and tie on,
and flies the
freaking plane. Not even a small plane.
I know, not like a fucking
get up early. He doesn't probably even sleep. He gets up early. He's probably talking to his press agents about books he's writing and some sword competitions he's doing.
Yeah, it's not like he's flying a private jet. It's a fucking DC-10. It's like a commercial airline. Oh
he's
my god!
Just getting on that plane, looking at it, and he's flying it after performing it. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah,
but that shows the human capability of what you can do.
Absolutely, and again, it's about, you know, he wanted to fly an airplane and the challenge he set for himself. And the fact that once he flew the airplane, it was like, instead of me just sitting in club class or business class and hanging with the guys, I'd kind of like to fly the plane. So he's doing it. So it eliminates the whole rock star thing immediately when you go, yeah, they can afford to have their own plane, but the fucking singer's the one actually flying it because he's a qualified pilot. It's like, wow, just so cool.
And that goes back to also like one of the things I always talk about what's on the show is the worst interview question ever. And actually, like after this, you think about this too, your worst interview question ever. One of the things I heard was Bruce Dickinson. Now he's a sword fighter, like competition, fencing.
Yep.
He's done books. He's done solo albums. He's done so much stuff. You know, beverages and whatever, author and so. Former, like one of the strongest rock voices, and his age.
Yep.
Let's talk about the top 10 vocal singers as they've gotten older, that their voices have probably gotten stronger. Sammy Hagar. So I mean, there's and it's hard to keep the same range as you get older. You know, everyone's singing down key, wishing he didn't have these high notes. He's delivered after fighting cancer. So
fighting cancer, yeah. And just on the thing, just to underline that, you said they improve with age. Let's not count Vince Neil's last run of shows in with that, because that would be like.
I don't know what's going on with him. First off, I think the fat shaming and stuff sucks because you get older, your body changes, and who cares?
Yeah, what it is. That's got nothing to do with his.
But that always becomes part of it. So I wish they would just take it apart. I think as a performer, I think he could have taken a little extra time to work on some cardio or position himself, or I think he had, but then I think COVID probably hit him again. He battles something.
Yes.
So, you know, I don't know, but you got that disdain tour.
In a very vulnerable spot. When you go on stage and you're standing in front of people, you're very vulnerable. When you do something like this, you're exposing yourself, so you're vulnerable to comment, and I think that's it. But I think, you know, again, it's down to the individual. If you're going to challenge yourself, and it may be doing a series of shows, it may be running 100 meters, it may be climbing rocks or whatever, but you have the responsibility to yourself to condition yourself so that you feel good about it. And I think possibly, nobody's going to go out and know they're not going to be like able to do it. So it means that maybe the people around him, nobody went, Vince, let's just get a program going. Let's get you mindset and so you feel good about yourself. And maybe they just thought, we're going to make some cash out of this, and they pushed him out the door, and he didn't.
They said he did it. They said they had a program. He was working out and stuff. And I actually thought it was just great because as a human being, he was working out. I mean, I think he just literally is dealing with demons that he's never. I'm not making excuses for him either because vocally it wasn't there. But I just think it's a human factor because we forget that everyone, they go home, they get off the bus, they're still talking to people. It doesn't matter how big or small your house is. You still have a dog, your dog dies, you're heartbroken. Who cares if you have 20,000 people, your mom's sick. But like he had a daughter that died when he was younger. And I think he was in a car accident where he killed his friend because they're both drinking and driving.
Yeah.
I don't think these demons, I think he lives his life a different way. I don't think those demons have ever really left him.
No, I'm sure.
It stays with him that's affected on such a deeper level that beyond these stupid gaining weight jokes and he's still trying to perform. I think if he could really get in a good mental, physical, like really, you know what I mean? Like Phil Collins from like Def Leppard needs to say, come on over. Let's do a mind thing. Or like when like Guns N' Roses were all alcoholics and then like Duff said, you know what? I cleaned up my act and I got into like, kickboxing, or I got into whatever martial arts, and I did a mind body thing. And I really had to kind of realize I had to clear house with some stuff.
Yeah.
I think there's more going on there. And
that's it. I think it is also an environment and advice, and an awareness, and if you can't shake those demons off or whatever, it's like, how many people died, rock stars died from drugs, but how many saved themselves by stopping, and it's one of the things, if you want to have the longevity and this is what you do and you feel you can't do anything else, this is who you are, you want to do it forever, you end up being a Keith Richards or a Lemmy or whatever it was, and you try and exhaust it as long as you can because you can't do anything else, or you feel you can't. And maybe that's what's driving Vince, but I just think it's got to be people around him or just not, really being honest with him, or really being there for him, or really supporting it so that it's as good as it could be. So maybe, because it happens a lot in the movie industry, it happens a lot. Oh my God, you're amazing, you're fantastic. Oh my God, we love you. And then you go out and you fuck up and they don't talk to you again. And you're like, but I thought you thought I was amazing and I was fantastic. They go, no, you're over, dear, you're over. And it's like, fuck, what happened to me being like the main guy? But they're not, sometimes they're not considering you the person, they're just considering the commodity. And it's like, yeah, we can go out and do these and do a whole load of, and we'll get you on a program, we'll get you out there. And it's all about like the end
80s
result.
rock stuff too is the press. They just did, I was talking to Eric Martin and they just did a thing on him that he doesn't look the same. It was like really like a dig. It was like the worst thing ever. First off, Eric's fine. He looks great. I hope in a couple of years I look as good as him. I mean, like, and but a lot of these singers will say, and he's fantastic. But like, why would you say like he doesn't look like he's 20 years old? Seriously, does anybody look like they're 20 years old? How would you like to be compared against like a picture when you're like long hair and you're 20 years old and you have like the skin of an angel and your vocal cords are like so high?
Yeah,
you're writing notes, you're singing notes that you can sing when you're younger. But 40 years go on or whatever. I'm not saying him. I'm kind of just being generic. The problem with a lot of singers also is vocally, your voice has changed, man. And that's what goes back to Bruce. He's one of the four future ones. Some of it's obviously fortitude, but part of it's just natural.
Well, it is natural. That's it.
Share your gift on top of it. At that point, then you start to just like layer things of how much success you get.
It's as simple as this. It's like you take a Rob Halford, or you take a Ripper Owens, or you take whoever, Klaus Meine, or you take those guys like Bruce. They have a natural voice. They were naturally singers. They naturally had a great range, and they sing and they keep their voice in that thing. But then you have people who start off in a band and they might know a guy who wants to be the singer, and he might be able to kind of hold the tune, and he pushes his voice, and they get some things out. but that guy's not a natural singer. He doesn't have a natural voice. So for him, every time he does it, it's about being the front man. And then they go on these journeys where they rip it and they drink everything and they think, oh, that's really, really cool. And that also is destroying what voice they had. They don't practice. They don't do their, you know, all of their vocal practices, and they don't do it for some years. And then they put the stage clothes on. Now they're a bit older, they're a bit heavier, they're a bit, you know, different. Age has an effect on you, and then you go on stage and then you're trying to hit everything the way it was when you haven't been doing it, and it's not there.
Well,
you know,
Vince Neil sort of. Vince Neil doesn't had a high range, but it's always sort of been it. So like that's like a Vince Neil. But then if you look at, say, people that as their voices changed, they've grown with it and taken care of themselves. Like look at Ian Gillan from Deep Purple.
Completely
voice change.
Yeah.
And his voice when he was younger was just like demons from hell.
Yeah.
He still has a good voice, and he takes care of it. It's just different, and that's the difference of taking care of yourself and working your instrument, because he still sounds good. He's just it's just changed a little bit because naturally, look at it. Was he 70s or something? It still sounds better than 20-year-olds.
And also the other thing, I think, you know, if you're a singer, you know, I've even done, not that I'm in a class of anything with those guys, but even as a singer, you know, I've been on stage sometimes where there's something coming, and I go for the note, and I don't know whether it's intuition or whether it's just natural or whatever, but I realize I'm not going to get there. So rather than flatten it out or just throw the note away, I drop. So I drop a tone or you know, and I hit the lower resonant tone. It's the same key. It's just the lower note rather than the higher note.
Right.
But as a singer, if you're a singer and you know what your voice can do, and you tell straight away and you can flip. But if you aren't that kind of singer, like a Gillan or whatever, you know, you still keep trying to hit, because that's the notes you're supposed to hit. You know, Steve Percy from Rap and that, you know, so you end up doing a show that you just think you should have just not done that, or, you know, you should have maybe tried to pitch your voice down. But I think people who don't work their voice and aren't natural singers, maybe they don't have technique, so they don't know what to do in that situation. So what they do is they try and throw their voice out by trying to hit that note, and then of course it works out quite bad for them too. So I think that's the two types I see. You know, lots of natural singers. Flo Jansen, I mean, the females, you can look at the females for a start, you know, Elisa, you know, from Arch Enemy. You look at these, and these are most of the death metal singers that are really great, particularly the females, can sing, you know, so they actually sing. They're singers, so they could sing, you know, whatever it is. And
we don't have any old ones, though. We don't have any legendary female singers yet, because it's relatively still, in the past 10 years, a newer genre of it. So I want to see how strong their voices carry over. They will, I'm sure, but I want to see how that future of strong women singers from the metal genre, when they get older, like your Rob Halford ages, to see who's going to.
I mean, you've got a couple going up there. You've got you know, Doro Pesh. You know, she's not a young spring chicken anymore, but she still holds it. Lee Aaron just went out again. Sounds fucking amazing. Lita Ford, she's still cranking it. You know, so they are those females, and I think their voices, the voices seem to stay. But again, if they're singers, when they're not singing, I mean, if you compared a kind of Wendy O. Williams to a Stevie Nicks, you probably hear a difference, because Wendy had a tight vocal, it was punky, it was a particular style, a bit like Lemmy. So the voice would then, you know, might not hold up as well as, say, someone who is that kind of singer, like the girls from Heart or something like that, you know, where you know, they're naturally, as they age, they will still have that vocal range in there. So, but yeah, your point is taken. You know, we've got there's so many females coming through now, and I hear so much richness. But I think that they're able to bend their voices in particular styles, especially extreme styles, because they can sing. Whereas some extreme style singers, weren't singers in the first place. They just found up into a band and I want to be the singer. And so they're just doing this technique, you know, and you can hear the difference in that. They won't really have the same kind of longevity because their voice, the voice, you know, doesn't have the same kind of lifespan as a real singer, you know, hopefully.
Yeah,
Anyway.
though, like as far as female singers, one of the things I love, you know, Delana, you're listening to her. She's got a really raspy voice, and she can sing everything. And they always want to make her do like Janice, because always you get forced into a box with her. But her voice is such a range. There's not a lot of female singers out there that have that gravelly voice.
I mean,
rock and roll.
There's a very good friend of mine from she was in Chastain, Leather Leone, and she's a huge Dio fan. She knew Ronnie, and when she was in Chastain, she very nice voice, very in that Ronnie James Dio vibrato type of way. But funnily enough, the older she's got, the better her voice sounds, the richer it sounds. She's still got the range, she's still got the vibrato, she's still got the power, but there's a quality in her voice that's even, you know, gone with age. You know what I mean?
I'll have to check that out, because I love female singers that have a deeper, raspier, Stevie Nicks, Delana. Like, there's, you know what I'm saying? There's not as many out there that either can do the hardcore like Arch Enemy and then the high clean vocals. But for female vocals, there's that weird, it's almost like in that male vocal range.
Yeah.
Not like a tenor or a baritone, kind of like that. There's like a weird spot
that
most males gravitate towards, and women can usually dust them singing. They can go all over the place. But that sweet spot that a good rock and roll singer can do, that may not be a technical singer, because most of these guys we're talking about all have unique voices. They would not be. You're not going to listen to Klaus sing top 40 songs because it wouldn't sound right. Maybe also because it's hard, or you're not going to hear, or Bruce Dickinson wouldn't sound right doing a pop song.
Yeah, exactly.
So the question that we started with, that's what this show goes around in circles. Interviewer says, Bruce Dickinson looks at him and says, Bruce Dickinson, you're the best singer in the world. How do you feel? What is that for? That's the worst question. Like, so that was leading up to, like, what was your worst questions, Ben?
Well, I don't think I've had any worst question, not in that kind of way, worst questions. I suppose the one was what I just said was like, how does it feel?
That's horrible.
You weren't successful being the actor, that you didn't hit success. And it's like, what do you mean? What do you mean? If you want to be in a movie and you end up in a movie, isn't that success? So it depends on how you measure it. I mean, I suppose the most consistent, not the worst question, but the consistent thing was during the early Venom days, when people would then go to me, how did it feel stepping into another man's shoes? And that for me was like the most dumbest question. Is like, I never put anybody else's boots on in my life. I only put my own boots on. So
I can't see you taking it seriously. Like, well, I'm glad he wasn't in it, because our feet would have gotten stuck. I can imagine you making some kind of smart-ass Smarmy Carmen.
Yeah. And I just thought, you know, it's not a consideration. I don't think it should be. You know, even you know, someone who's done a particular role, that to me was like saying King Lear. You know, how many great actors have played Richard III or King Lear on stage, on film? You have Laurence Olivier played Richard III, my favorite play, Richard III. You had Laurence Olivier do it very famously on a movie. You had Ian McKellen do it on a movie. You've had almost every great actor do it. Yeah, from Pacino even did it.
Yeah.
But does that mean I couldn't do it or someone else couldn't do it? But it's already been done. But it's like, no, because the piece is there, so you can translate it. But every actor does it their own way. And I think it's the same for me, the same with, you know, I'm not saying that, let's take Iron Maiden. So my Iron Maiden, where I was introduced and I thought they were fucking insanely great, was Paul Diano. I loved them. You know, I wasn't a fan of Samson, and they was changing singers. They got rid of Paul, and the singer they brought in was Bruce Dickinson, who had been Bruce in Samson. I was like, oh no, I don't like that kind of vocal style.
You mean with the mustache? You like vocals with a giant mustache?
Well, yeah.
The lip couch.
But you know, then they were massively successful. So I was like, oh, okay. And he sounded much better with Iron Maiden, I've got to say, in my opinion. But then you have Blaze Bayley. But you know, Blaze with his Wolfsbane, and then he steps in Iron Maiden, very different. You had Tim Ripper Owens replacing Rob Halford. Now, it doesn't matter if you think that's classic Priest, but did he do a good job? So I think Tony Martin with Black Sabbath, or Gillan with Black Sabbath, or Dio with Black Sabbath, or Ozzy with Black Sabbath. It's like, well, for me, I know what I prefer, like with Motorhead or Kiss or anybody else, but I take each step as its own thing. Do I like this?
I enjoy almost every version of Sabbath. I love the Tony Martin Sabbath album. I gotta take a sense somebody because I love that album. And maybe calling it Black Sabbath, it's hard because then you get the name of like, they want to do an album without being Black Sabbath, but they're like, labels are like, to Tony Iommi, no, you need to be Black Sabbath. So there's a weird label thing where bands have to be titled with new singers and they can't branch free because who's going to see him with a new singer and a whole new thing? They already got, so that's a hard, slippery slope. But they've had some great singers. Obviously, Dio, Ian did a great album with them. I mean, they're all just different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's it. My first Sabbath is Ozzy, so it's just different. But I still love all the Sabbaths. It's just a different.
And you have your maybe have your favorite album with those people on it. But that doesn't mean to say everything else is bad. But that's just what you prefer. It's your favorite. But I think that's it. For every person that you may have loves Sabotage, you may have a shitload of people who actually loved Born Again with Gillan, or Headless Cross with Tony Martin, or whatever it is, with Dio, Heaven and Hell with Dio, so I think that's it. It's the adventure, I remember Lemmy saying, Ace of Spades was such a huge fucking album, and I was coming through and that was like, wow. And it was the top of every chart in England. They were like the biggest band. They were playing everywhere, packed out. It was like, wow, you can't get a better album from a better three-piece than this. But years before, they'd been struggling to even get anybody to consider them particularly seriously. And I thought they'd done some amazing stuff, but they were still, a working band. But at that point, they cracked the egg. Fast forward like 30 years later, and even Lemmy was going, sometimes we have to play Ace of Spades, and I think, we've got a million better songs. We've wrote a million better songs than that. And it's like, yes, you may have done, but Ace of Spades was a particular song at a particular time and has become particularly notorious that people want to hear you do it because it's iconic. And so, there's always moments that supersede everything else. And I think it's the same thing with singers. There'll be a moment that you heard whoever it is for the first time, and that is your moment.
Like a touchstone for that band.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's like, people going, oh yeah, this is good, that's good, but we all want Metallica to do Master of Puppets again. And it's like, okay, but that was your moment, so you want to repeat that. Because when you, particularly with music, I think, when you, maybe even old movies, but when you see or hear that particular thing, that it's evocative. It takes you back. For me, Ultraman or The Twilight Zone reminds me of growing up in Canada and me sitting in my basement watching those on TV. So when I see them, I'm that person again. And I kind of like that. It means that my body's aging, bits are falling off, but inside, I'm still that person. I'm still that person that gets excited by that piece of music or excited by that TV show or whatever it is. It evokes emotion in us, and it's why you play a song to you and your
fans won't let you get past that. Won't let you find that as an artist to go past it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want Metallica doing another Master of Puppets. What I actually don't want them to do is another Lulu. I respect that they did, like, everything else they've done, I've listened to and enjoyed. I respected trying Lulu, but Lou Reed just wasn't a singer, and it just wasn't going to work out from the very, very beginning.
No,
but I respect him as an artist trying it.
Exactly, but if you think of Lou Reed and the Velvet Underground, it's like it's like someone being able to do it. I mean, if a Leonard Cohen came to me and went, "Oh man, I really want, let's do something." Fucking as Leonard Cohen. Now it doesn't matter if or Celine Dion, you'd still think, holy shit, so Metallica did the thing with Lady Gaga, but it's Lady Gaga. So as a person, if you get the opportunity to do something as cool that you think is really cool and like that, you may take it. Your fan base may think you're nuts and hate it, but as an artist, you may be enticed to do it. And so I think the fact they did Lulu with Lou Reed was like, for them, was a private moment. And for the fan base was like, okay.
Kept it a private. Musically, I just wish I didn't hear it was a private moment. But to that point, like, if you're really a fan, even like the fans you have your band, like, it's like, I want my bands. I want, if honestly, if Metallica wanted to do another thing like that, yeah, do it. Who am I to? I enjoy what I enjoy. No one's
Yeah,
making anything. I'm a fan of the band, which means I'm a fan and I'm a supporter of the creativity of the output. If they do something different, I'll still check it out. And if I don't like it, I don't like it. It's my opinion. Or just I'm gonna be high on my list of other things I like more importantly.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
how can you be a fan and be
And
like,
again,
that sucks? Your first 5 albums are the best, and everything else sucks. I'm a fan. No, you're not a fan. You're just
yeah,
kind of a jerk, and you're elitist.
yeah. You want them to, you want the thing that you loved about them, you want them to keep doing forever. And okay, I understand that completely, you know. But it's like going to your favorite malt shop and saying like, I only like the first time I came in here, I had chocolate ice cream. I only like chocolate ice cream. I only want chocolate ice cream. So I just want you to always make chocolate ice cream and nothing else. You know, the guy's like, yeah, but the guy behind you, it was strawberry for him, and that girl over there was peach, and that guy there was, you know, a Coke float, you know, a root beer float. So it's like, but we make all this stuff. What you want is your thing, but other people want other things. So, you know, you keep your memory, but you can try other things too. And I think, but as an artist, you know, you're not going to, you know, what every album's to be Master of Puppets, every single album you do. I mean, 30, 40 years of doing that, even you won't be doing music anymore. So
Only
it's
one band can do the same thing and get away with it, and it can still be the same blueprint, the same 4 or 5 guys or whatever, and still be so much the same album and still sound brilliant. Is AC/DC.
well, yeah, yeah,
But seriously, because there's no like, you know what you're getting with every album, but every
yeah,
album you go, that was good.
yeah,
But
yeah,
there's
yeah.
something really, you know what I'm saying? There's something that they have that magic in the box somewhere where you're like, they can do it. But I don't think I've
Yeah,
ever heard anybody else really be able to duplicate that same exact thing without going something different.
no, no, but I think that's kind of probably because as well with DC, you know, is that the trick they had, I think it's blues. It's blues rock, you know, and very traditional blues rock, and it doesn't vary from that. And the vocal approach from Bon Scott in particular was illicit because you know, he sung from his experience, you know, everything from Rosie to Jailbreak to Let There Be Rock, you know, it was all emotional, but you felt connected to it because it was like, wow, this guy has done that. This guy is that, you know, beating around the bush, you know, everything was coming from that.
Real
Um,
deal.
yeah, it was a real deal. And Brian very much so the same way. So, you know, You Shook Me All Night Long, you know, With Those Americans, all of that kind of stuff, you know. So you feel connected to it. And it's the same thing. If you listen to Blind Melon, John Lee Hooker, you know, I mean, you listen to Lead Belly, you know, they were singing from the heart. It's a real emotion. It's a real connection. Very simple,
But
but it's got that hook, you
the
know.
band though is still together and they're still putting it out because then you guys work with the band dynamics. Now there are other from the heart singers that should to be huge. Would be like to me Rose Tattoo.
Yeah,
Talk about singing from
angry.
the heart. You
Yeah,
know, Angry Anderson, like he should have been bigger than he is because of the influence and the power. Like most people haven't. Once again, as a from the heart band, but the band itself, because of many
yeah,
reasons, didn't exist. So then you get that other dynamic of being from the heart and being simple, like
yeah,
simple in a complex way because they're not simple. AC's not simple. It's simple, complex, kind of like some of the best Beatles songs. You know,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
more under the hood.
I think it's hook lines. It's hook lines, and it's a real way. I mean, you know, a perfect example from Angry there, and you know, again, a very street, a very bar oriented, a very real oriented way. You know, Bad Boys, all the Assault and Battery album, but the first one, Rock and Roll Outlaw. You know,
Hmm?
it was all about him. It was all about his experience, you know, and your experience and how it is in reality. And again, based on slide blues, totally Australian, you know, just like blues rock, you know, like you know, West country and western, you know, like, you know, coming from the Gene trees and all of that kind of stuff, all the way through, uh, uh, um, you know, till you get to, you know, Galveston and all the classic hits, Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton. You know,
Yep.
there's a heritage there, and that is it maintains this stuff. And yeah, you can have Garth Brooks and or whoever it is now going, Leanne Rhymes going on stage and filling out, you know, the stadiums 3 nights in a row, and you know, but it's all based on the Johnny Cashes and all of that kind of stuff as well. You know, that was all real people, real life things, real stories, and kind of that's the connection. So there's a front end to it as well, but there's also a back end to it, and the back end is the reality of it. And I think somehow AC/DC in particular managed to export it perfectly, and Rose Tattoo not as successfully as AC/DC, but the quality's there and the style's there, the reality's there, and the emotions there. And I think, that's kind of, you know, the analogy there, but very real. You know, again, the blues rock thing is, you know, it's outback music. Or in Australia, I claim that as kind of outback music, the same way as I would kind country and western, you know, or the blues from the Delta, you know, the same kind of thing. It's pure because it comes from the beginning. It's not the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, the Beach Boys. It's not that kind of polished, more side of it. It's just guttural, you know. And all those musicians all end up fucking in Texas somewhere in some, you know, bar or recording studio with like this big old guy who's like, you know, playing his, because they all go, oh my God, I've got to go back to the scene of the crime. It all begins from beautiful little nut egg. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful. Yeah.
It's great. I mean, like I said, I want to say with Anderson, I do think we're talking about success because he didn't hit the financial, like record sales. I still think his success is just as monumental, and the impact is just as strong. Just to put that out there, as far as like music, he just didn't get the accolades, or the records aren't still, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
still not supporting hit that band the same as AC/DC, but clearly we're talking about it, and it's been an influence. We still listen to. I know I still listen to. You know.
Oh yeah. And they're just out on tour again. He's still there, and we've done a couple of festivals. I've done a couple of festivals over the years where he's been there, you know, and he's still as vital and he's still as meaningful, and the songs still feel as crucial and as real as they do. But I think, you know, that's part of the industry, you know, or that kind of measure of success. It's about investment. There's several bands at the moment who are being heavily invested in, and you know who they are, and their popularity is going through the roof, and blah blah blah, and everybody goes, oh, they're amazing, and you know, everybody loves them and stuff. It's like, well, yeah, but there's another band who are just as amazing, just as fantastic, and just as talented, and have just as good material, but you don't know who they are, and nobody knows who they are, and their popularity isn't going through the roof because nobody's investing in them, but everybody's investing in them. So, you know, there is a balance on that commerciality, and AC/DC exported at the right time, and Rose Tattoo weren't exported with the right kind of handling at the right time, and they didn't get the same kind of investment, acknowledgement, and they didn't get to America, and you know, so there's lots of you know, right place, right time things, look, and all that, and that all goes into that. You can still achieve though, and you can still have your fan base, and you can still produce stuff, but you might just miss that pinnacle by a gnat's whisker, depending on many things. And the commerciality of music in particular, it's like movies, you know. It's Tarantino trying to do Pulp Fiction, and the major studios going, what? Nah. He goes away and does it on a side. It's a smash hit, and every studio wants to get Tarantino to do every movie with them.
Yeah.
You know, but it's like, does that mean that Pulp Fiction, it's a good movie now, or is it or Reservoir Dogs? You know, it's a good movie now, or wasn't a good movie? And it's like, well, we didn't think it would sell because it's not like our commercial stuff that we sell. But now we know it sells. Yeah, we can commercialize that. So I think that happens a lot too, you know. And it's unfortunate because for every movie that gets a national exposure and has all the big stars in it, gets all the money thrown at it, you probably have 20, 30 movies that are amazing movies that make it to the Sundance Festival that you never really see on general release. You might come across it on a DVD or on a Netflix if you're looking for something. Oh, I'll try this and see what it's like. I mean, a classic example is Rocky. You know, the guy writes a script, does a load of crap jobs, and does a couple of bit parts, and even pops up in a porn movie or whatever, writes a script for Rocky, casts himself, and nobody wants to do it. And he holds out and he holds out and he's holding it. Well, you know, the rest is history there for Sylvester Stallone. Same thing as Arnold Schwarzenegger. Schwarzenegger walks in, they go, look at you. and your name's Schwarzenfarter, what's your name? Switching Funter. It's like, mate, you got to change your name, and this is never going to sell. Okay.
His accent is never going to go over to America, as later on he becomes the governor of California.
Exactly. So if people are looking for inspiration and they're doubting themselves, they think, yeah, but I can't. Never think you can't. There's two examples right away of people who just refused to say they can't and just stuck with it, and there's the result at the end of the day.
I hear people say I can't, it's not good, or they can't, or they say something negative to your idea. I mean, sometimes you could have just a crap idea. I mean, there could be this,
of course,
but let's say just generally roll on as a creative, or you're not fleshed out yet as an artist.
Exactly.
Most places, all record labels and movie companies are really just banks.
Yeah.
Entertainment banks. And what they're saying to you is, they're saying, I think it's crap. But crap to them means, I don't think I can make any money from you.
Yes.
It's what it means. We think it's not good, just crap. Our bank can't make money from you.
No.
If we could make money from you, all of a sudden my opinion would have changed for some reason. I don't know why. It's just brilliant. Everything you do is great. Really? Because how does that change? I mean, you have a house now because of it? All of a sudden you realize I'm brilliant? Or I at least like when some of those places go, you know what? I really don't understand what they're doing. I don't even understand how it's selling.
Yeah.
But I've learned that I made a mistake. I'm going to support this artist because they're making me bushels of money. At least be upfront about that, because some places have done it. So, that's not me.
Yeah.
But
I mean, a studio is going to tell you they're taking a risk if they're going to spend 180 to 220 million dollars on your movie. But you have to look, of course they're taking the risk. They're the ones putting the mortgage up, and they're the ones putting the money in. However, it's very, and subsequently they're going to want a big star attached. They're going to want to try and secure as much fan interest before they even go to production to kind of guarantee some of the money back. But no real studio is going to invest that kind of money initially unless they kind of know the market and think we're going to make that back. And on top of that, and in the same kind of way the music industry works the same, where they go, yeah, it's okay, but yeah, we're not interested, put it out, because what they're looking for is they're looking for the next success that they already have. I remember it must have been late 90s, and I was working on a project, a TV show, and I worked with an artist who did animation, cartooning and stuff, and we had this idea for a kind of game, and it was before the Sony PlayStation launch. So anyway, we had all these meetings and went to see Sony and Virgin and all of these games companies, Sega and everybody, and I was at Virgin Records, who were doing a new games arm. And I remember, just sitting, chatting, we were having a cup of coffee, having a break. And I said to one of their A&R guys, and I said, so what's the next big thing then? And they went, what? I said, well, who are you looking at now? Any bands of interest that you guys have got your eye on? And they said, well, we're looking for another Radiohead. I said, oh, right, yeah, Radiohead. Oh, cool. You're looking for a band, what kind of mimic their success? They went, no, they can sound like Radiohead. If we can get another band that sounds like Radiohead. And I was going, but why would you want a band that sounds like Radiohead? I mean, don't you want another band who's as different as Radiohead?
Right.
Because, and they were like, well, no, because then it's guaranteed money in it, because people love Radiohead. So if we can get another band that sounds like Radiohead, it's guaranteed. And I was like, yeah, but who are you looking for before Radiohead when you found Radiohead? That's like going, but that was their way of thinking. It's let's not forget that an A&R person is out scouting for music. So if he finds 10 acts and he brings to the label and they all suck and the label doesn't want them, he's not going to have his job very soon, but he wants to keep his job. So the best thing to do is go, well, actually, we've got this band that everybody loves and everybody's going to say, and it's making us money. So I need to find another one like them, play it safe, so I get to keep my job. The label's really happy, and I get to keep doing this. And that's why you end up with these trends and these genres, because those people go, oh my God, that style is selling. So I need to get more of that style while it's selling, it's hot property, and then we all are profiting. if that bottoms out at some point and goes away, there'll be something else that comes along. But right now, and bang, you've got all of a sudden you've got genres because you want to keep profiting off that, you know.
It leads. I just heard this producer was at a party and as a while back, and it was a David Geffen, who was famous for different controversial. Sometimes he wasn't great as an artist, but he was great about picking bands.
Yes.
And his A&R guys, he really gave him a lot of freedom. Even if he didn't get it, he trusts his A&R guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he was with one of the producers at a party, Steve Thompson, and he says, they walk in the party, he said, this guy right here, so produce A&R guy, he hadn't brought anything in 2 years, right?
Yeah.
Shortly after that time, though, but he trusts him. He says, you know what? He's here because he's going to get me something. I know he's going to do it. Sure enough, not long after, Nirvana. Remember them? Ever hear them?
Yeah.
But that's a business angle of saying, building yourself a team is almost the way of being really successful is by building a strong team around you. And then investing and saying, I trust my team in my investment. That's a pretty long time to trust an investment, 2 years in the music industry. But the payoff did work out. I'm sure there's other stories where it didn't, but that's an example of how a lot of breakout artists, because Geffen at the time, a young company had Guns N' Roses, Nirvana, the list goes on of very different acts.
Yeah.
That were not copying, you know what I mean?
Exactly. But I think that's the criticism sometimes of the industry is that, like, there's nobody. Like, we don't have another Nirvana, there's not another Led Zeppelin, there's not another whatever it is, because all these bands were very individual. And that's like, yes, because unless it happens accidentally, you don't have it, because we've formatted everything into specific genres that are selling. So, you have a death metal genre or a black metal genre or a thrash genre or whatever. So you have bands that are brilliant bands all fitting into that category, and labels who are specializing in certain areas who are selling that. But it's almost like selling Coca-Cola, it's like we sell Coke,
There's
we
bands
sell
out there, though, that are good, that are different.
Yeah.
And just even on my show that I get sent to me, I can't handle it because of what my show does her thing. I get just certain genre bands, a copy of bands, older people, older artists trying to be younger versions of bands they grew up with. They're decent artists, but it's not going to go anywhere. But then there's some stuff that are just really great that are nuggets, and they're already out there. They're already together. They have their own recorded albums. They're like a key operations, like a latchkey operation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They recorded their stuff. They've done it there. They have an image. They're like totally packaged. Where like literally a record label can just come in and be like, here's this money, here's what we're going to do, let's work together, because you guys already got it together. I mean, it is.
Yeah.
But they're not doing that. I mean, so there is stuff out there, and so when people say rock is dead, they need to get themselves a music channel, because people will send you stuff. There's stuff out there that is
completely. I mean, I think that's the thing, is when I hear those kind of statements, it's usually from bigger artists who lived in the heyday, Gene Simmons or something, who had a different kind of format, and maybe they hear lots and lots of music, but we go all over the world, and I get music sent to me all the time, from files to CDs to albums, whatever. And I've seen bands from Puerto Rico, Costa Rica, Ecuador, Peru, North America, Iceland, everywhere, Russia, Japan, Taiwan, Australia, New Zealand, Tasmania, you name it. And the amount of incredible work that's going on and the quality of it is outstanding, and across the board in all kinds of genres, and so it's very much alive, and it's a difference between, we had a discussion before we went on air about the pandemic and
way to break the fourth wall, Tony.
Yeah, the idea of talking to people who are living it, as opposed to what the media is telling you in a particular country, because they have a particular way of putting it across. And I think it's the same thing with music to a degree. I see is that it's what they're selling on the magazines and what they're trying to push towards you for a financial gain. 20, 30 years ago, you might get on the cover of a magazine because you'd done a lot of stuff and you got noticed by the magazine at the time. He was like, they're a really cool band. Let's get them in and put them on the cover. And then you might get a 2 or 3 page spread because they want to interview you. And then your record company might go, well, we'll advertise their new album, and then they pay and you would advertise a new album. Today, you can get on the cover of a magazine and you can get as many pages as you like, depends on how much money you pay. And so,
or how many followers. That's the other thing. People don't even represent somebody now. There are artists out there that had platinum albums. I know, actually, I can personally say they had platinum albums, but now to get representation now, they literally ask them, how many followers do you have? Like on Instagram, how many followers do you have?
Completely.
Like, they have platinum albums behind them. They're musicians for 40, 50 years. And they're like, yeah, but we need 10,000 followers before we'll pick you up in our company or something. What?
Yeah, totally. That's a new mark. I mean, I'm doing a thing. There's a British thrash band who are kind of long in the tooth. And called Virus. They've been around for a long time. They're doing a headline show at some thing for Bloodstock. It's a run-up competition, Metal to the Masses for Bloodstock. And someone had sent me a post and said, oh, their bass player, they had a problem. Their bassist in America, he couldn't get over. So the guitarist is going to, the bass player who's playing bass, the guitarist, sorry. So the bass player is going to switch a guitar because he helped write the material or whatever. And it's for their new album. And so they've got a hole for the bass. And I thought, maybe you could contact them and help out. So I contacted them. I spoke to Code Finley, who's the main guy. And I said, look, you've got this show. If you want, I mean, I know some of your stuff. You send me this stuff through. I'll come up and stand and play in for you. I think the album's great. Really? I was like, well, yeah, I get to play a gig and fucking why not? So they were like, oh, amazing. So I'm doing that. But part of the conversation we had is he put the album out last year. He said it hasn't done like the legs I hoped it would do, but some of the complaint against him for positioning himself on festivals he'd applied for was, the album hasn't had too many hits on your pages, and you haven't got this amount of followers and stuff. And he was like going, fuck, I don't know. And I said, well, that doesn't really mean anything in real life, because, you could have, you could be a band, and I know many, and you could have 150, 200,000 followers following you on your Facebook page, and you could put your new video up, and it hits 56,000 people. And I said, and I've been out on tour with these people. They don't pull those people in. So where do those people come from? Where do they live? There's ways to pay for promotion, to boost your fan, and it's like, that doesn't mean that those people are real and they're going to come and they're going to buy and they're going to support and whatever. So I think it's a falsehood to go, you got 1 million followers on your Instagram, but then you go out and play and there's not 1 million people coming to see you. So it's like, well, hang on. So it's not about the quality. It's not about the reality. It's about how it appears.
Bye.
All right, be good. Cheers.
Be good. Take care, man.
Ciao.